The film begins by showing a king and his soldiers trying to catch a dragon. They reach a cave, and out comes the dragon, attacking and defeating all the soldiers. Realizing he's trapped, the king gives up and bows down to the dragon. Many years later, far away in another land, there's a princess named Elodie and her younger sister Floria. They live with their father and stepmother in a kingdom because their real mother passed away a long time ago from a sickness. Meanwhile, in the freezing cold of Elodie's kingdom, people were struggling without enough food or water. Elodie wanted to help, so she decided to gather firewood for them. Soon after, they noticed a train arriving from a distant kingdom called Aria. Representatives from Aria handed Elodie a letter proposing that she marry Prince Aria. At first, Elodie refused, but her father convinced her with promises of wealth and happiness. He believed the prince would bring prosperity to their people. Eventually, Elodie agreed to the marriage and journey to Aria. On the way, they passed through a mysterious mist and were welcomed by two huge dragon statues. Though nervous at first, Elodie felt relieved as they entered Aria. It was a stark contrast to her homeland, with lush greenery and abundant resources everywhere. Later, they were met by the royal treasurer, who guided them to their prepared room. Elodie and her family were astonished by what they saw, still finding it hard to believe she would become a princess in Aria. The treasurer announced that Elodie would meet her future husband, Prince Henry, at dawn. At that time, Elodie felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, as her life was about to change dramatically. While standing on the balcony, Elodie noticed a woman across from her room. They exchanged glances briefly before the woman disappeared inside. As night fell, Elodie's nerves resurfaced. She tried to calm herself on the balcony and noticed the woman's room was poorly lit. In the distance, she spotted torchlights on a mountain. The next day, Elodie finally met Prince Henry. Her anxiety faded as she saw him, and she even asked him out without her bodyguards. Henry seemed intrigued by Elodie, especially after seeing her ride a horse. Shortly after, Elodie wanted to know about the lights she saw. Henry told her they were used in an old ceremony to show respect to their ancestors. On the flip side, after Elodie's father discussed the marriage of their children, he seemed stunned by what he heard. Even though his wife sensed something odd, he brushed it off, reassuring that everything would be okay. Long story short, on the day before the wedding, Elodie's stepmother, sensing trouble, tried to warn Elodie about the mistake of this marriage. She urged Elodie to reconsider before it was too late, but their conversation was interrupted by Elodie's father. The following day marked the beginning of Elodie and Henry's wedding festivities. Elodie's happiness and dreams seemed to have come true so quickly as she was crowned Princess of Aria. However, the joy was short-lived. After the wedding, Henry took Elodie on a journey to a mountain she had seen before. He explained they were going to perform a second ancient ceremony there to honor their ancestors. Trusting her husband, Elodie followed without suspicion. When they got there, everything looked really strange. Queen Aria was dressed in red, and everyone else wore masks that matched. In this weird scene, Queen Aria gave Elodie a coin and told her about how their island, Aria, was founded. She said that a long time ago, when their ancestors came to the island, they met wild creatures that wrecked their village, but the king's soldiers fought the creatures and saved the day. However, even though they fought hard, they couldn't completely beat the creatures. So, the creatures suggested a deal. They would live peacefully with the villagers if the king sacrificed his 3 daughters. Although the king loved his daughters dearly, he felt he had to do what was best for his people. And so, the kingdom of Aria began. Later on, Queen Aria did a special ceremony, where she pricked Henry and Elodie's fingers to show how they were all one people now. That's when Elodie officially became a princess of Aria. At the end of the ceremony, Elodie had to throw her coin into a deep hole. After everything was done, Henry carried Elodie back toward the train, but then he suddenly threw her into a deep crack in the ground. Elodie was confused and angry when she woke up down there, trying to climb out but couldn't. She saw coins and jewelry around, realizing she wasn't the only one who had been tricked by the kingdom of Aria. Soon after, Elodie saw a light in a cave and found burning birds inside. Then, a talking dragon appeared. Despite her fear, Elodie bravely asked the dragon what he wanted. She learned that the blood ceremony between Henry and her was a trick to deceive the dragon. According to an agreement, every generation of Aria had to sacrifice 3 noble daughters to the dragon. Because of the blood ritual, Elodie now smelled like someone important to the dragon. Knowing this, she tried really hard to get away. On her way, she found out that the lady she saw earlier was actually a dead body in the cave. She realized that the torchlights she saw were for Henry's first wife's sacrifice to the dragon. Elodie managed to hide from the dragon in a passage in the cave. Feeling really upset and like she couldn't trust anyone, Elodie kept going through the halls. She realized even her father had used her for his own reasons. Desperate to get away, she bravely jumped over a big gap and ended up in a passage filled with blue light from some caterpillars. She used one of the caterpillars as a little lamp and kept going, but the dragon soon found her. Luckily, Elodie quickly hid in another hallway, thinking it was the safest spot from the dragon. She saw the names of other princesses carved into the walls and decided to take a break there. When she woke up, a little lampworm stuck to her hurt leg and somehow made it all better. Feeling stronger, Elodie found a map carved into the wall that showed her how to get out. With even more determination, she followed the map and finally found a beam of sunlight showing her the way to freedom. She also found a crown with the letters V on it, which meant Victoria had made it this far. Fighting to stay alive, Elodie climbed up and over a huge crystal rock. But then a dragon was waiting for her, hoping she'd slip so it could catch her. Luckily, she grabbed onto another crystal and managed to get to where she needed to go. But turns out it was just another really steep path up a mountain. Suddenly, the dragon appeared out of nowhere and said nobody could get away. When Elodie looked around, she saw a scary message on the other side that said, "No one is safe." And there was a skull there too, which belonged to Victoria. Feeling like she had no way out, Elodie accepted her situation. Just as the dragon was about to breathe fire, someone called her name from inside the cave. The dragon rushed off to see who it was. It turned out to be Elodie's father and some soldiers, coming to rescue her. But their voices made the dragon mad, and it attacked them without them even realizing it. Meanwhile, Elodie, recognizing her father's voice, hurried toward him. But on her way, she stumbled upon 3 baby dragons, still in their eggshells, lying dead. This tragedy traced back to the king we saw earlier in the scene. He and his soldiers had killed 3 newly hatched female dragon babies. In retaliation, the dragon struck a deal with the king that every generation, 3 daughters of the king's descendants had to be sacrificed. If not, the dragon threatened to destroy the kingdom of Aria and all its royal lines. While Elodie's father and his 2 soldiers were looking for her, the dragon suddenly attacked them. On the other hand, Elodie, hiding close by, accidentally made a noise just as her father was in danger. When the dragon heard it, it turned towards him. Luckily, the dragon got distracted by the sound of a guide trying to run away. Taking advantage of the distraction, Elodie went to her father, but he told her to leave right away, using the rope at the entrance, because Floria and her stepmother were still on the ship waiting for them. As her father's time was running out, he apologized to Elodie. She acted quickly and climbed up the rope, but the dragon saw her and went after her. Luckily, Elodie managed to escape just in time. Knowing the dragon was still close by, she tricked it by using her horse as bait while she hid behind a rock. Thinking it had lost her, the dragon got really angry and breathed fire at the ceiling. People watching thought Elodie had escaped. Soon after, Queen Aria quickly told her soldiers to catch Elodie's stepmother and Floria, who was on the ship, to take Elodie's place. Even though Henry tried to stop his mom from mixing her blood with Floria's, Queen Aria was determined to protect her kingdom no matter what. She hurt her own hand and mixed her blood with Floria's. Meanwhile, Elodie, feeling safe for a moment, suddenly saw her hurt stepmother after finding out that Floria had been taken by the dragon instead of her. Rushing to the ceremony spot, Elodie found out that Floria had indeed been captured by the dragon. Using her new skills and being prepared, Elodie went back into the cave passage and set up a trap to lure the dragon out. When the dragon fell into the trap, Elodie was ready, but the dragon took the chance to grab Floria and fly away. Concerned for her little sister's safety, Elodie told Floria to hide while she faced the dragon alone. In that tense moment, Elodie tried to explain to the dragon that neither she nor the other princesses sacrificed in the cave were from noble families. But the dragon didn't believe her and said he would keep hunting down daughters from noble families because the 3 baby dragons killed by the king were the last descendants of the dragon. Suddenly, the dragon breathed fire, throwing Elodie into the lake, badly hurting her. As she struggled to reach her sword, the dragon grabbed her quickly. But even though she was desperate, Elodie fought back. During the fight, she noticed dust reflecting off the wall in front of her. Thinking fast, she considered using it against the dragon. By daring the dragon to burn her right there, Elodie managed to turn the situation around. Then, the dragon accidentally hurt itself with its own fiery breath. Now in charge, Elodie showed a scar on her hand, saying that all the women who suffered in the cave had the same mark. It happened because the nobles fooled the dragon with the smell of their mixed blood. When the dragon heard this, it begged Elodie to end its pain, but she refused. Instead, she used blue caterpillars to heal the dragon's wounds. Later on, Elodie attended Henry's 3rd wedding. Realizing the danger, she urged Henry and everyone else there to leave the palace while they still could. Shortly after, the dragon showed up and destroyed the kingdom and everything in it. With the gold she had acquired and her newfound friendship with the dragon, Elodie decided to go back home to help her people do well and be happy. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if you ever find yourself facing a dragon, just offer it some blue caterpillars and it'll become your best friend.